In a prequel video, we covered the deindustrialization of India's world-renowned textile sector. In this video, we'll look at a far more high-tech industry, steel making. Metallurgy is the mark of a high civilization, and tracing the journey of civilization is often related to the progress of metalwork. Indian steel in particular was the stuff of legends. When Alexander of Macedon turned back from the Indus in 326 BCE, he did not take with him gold or silver, but 100 talents of Hindu steel, which fascinated him. One of the earliest existing proofs of Hindu metallurgy is Delhi's 23-foot-tall, rust-resistant iron pillar that still stands today. In the 12th century, the eminent Arab scholar Edrisi wrote, "It is impossible to find anything to surpass Hindustani steel." These are only 3 legends surrounding Hindu metalwork. The most famous Hindu steel was ukku. After Europeans came to India, unable to pronounce ukku, they called the steel wootz. The British were so mesmerized by this Indian steel that British soldiers jumped off their horses and stole the swords of their fallen enemies. They were stealing steel. Haha.
Stealing steel.
In 1790, Helena Scott sent samples of wootz to Sir Joseph Banks, president of the British Royal Society. A friend of Banks, Dr. Hayne, wrote that it promises to be of importance to the manufacturers of Britain. You may as well have Darth Vader saying that
this promises to be of importance to the Empire.
In a letter to Hayne, eminent British instrument maker Stoddart says, "The steel of India is decidedly the best I have yet met with." Britain's intellectual community was fascinated with this crucible Indian steel, much like Alexander was 2,000 years before. That fascination ended when the British learned how to make it. 2 Englishmen, Martineau and Smith, received a patent for wootz in 1825. And when India fought its first war of independence in 1857, the terrified Brits, barely winning by the skin of their famous teeth, shut down all Indian weapons and steel manufacturing. British steel quickly made its way into Indian markets, providing a base for England's steel-reliant industries. In 1883, the Indian industrialist Jamsetji Tata petitioned to set up a steel mill in India. The chief commissioner of the British Indian Railway, Frederick Upcott, said, "I will undertake to eat every pound of steel they succeed in making." They may have come to India for spices, but eating steel? Their food must be really bad. So Jamsetji didn't produce steel. His son, Dorabji Tata, finally acquired permission in 1912, 30 years after his father made the first petition. If that wasn't bad enough, the 2 largest steel consumers in India, the British Indian government and the British Indian Railways, insisted on British Standard Specification Steel, or BSSS. More like a load of BS, am I right? So when the Brits said, "Your steel isn't good enough," Tata made BSSS steel and planned to ship it to Britain. Then, the British government placed restrictions on the import of steel from India. Get on, mate, take a hint. So, in a 4-step process, Britain stole Indian steel technology, dismantled India's steel industry, sold British steel to India, and prevented the recovery of Indian steel through legal measures. In 1857, the UK was by far the largest manufacturer of steel in the world. By 1950, it remained only behind the 2 world superpowers. Only in 2018, more than 70 years after independence, did India become the 2nd largest steel manufacturer in the world, with China in a far lead. But it doesn't stop here. The repercussions of the looting of Indian steel are farther reaching than we dare to imagine. Michael Faraday, the inventor of electricity, studied Hindu steel in his works on material sciences. In a reference to wootz, the inventor of fission materials for nuclear technology, Cyril Smith, writes, "Single-minded pursuit of an Eastern technological product by Western scientists for over a century created the foundations of modern materials science." So, from electricity to the nuclear bomb and many more metal-based industries, the looting of India was consequential in more than just monetary terms. So, before we ask ourselves why India couldn't industrialize along with Europe, we should realize that Europe's growth hinged upon India's demise. Today, the West often complains in the World Trade Organization that Asians steal their patented technology. The next time patent disputes come up, they should remember Ukku, the crucible Hindu steel. At the very least, we should remember Ukku. I've been your host, Ashrit, and thanks for tuning in to Dharma Dhaba.